Going live now.
Hey Young Turks, it's Nomiki Konst here at JFK Terminal 4, where the very large protest took place just 2 nights ago. We are here to talk to the lawyers who have congregated in the terminal next to a cafe and are there assisting those who are detained, those who have questions. We have somebody here who is an attorney. Renee, what's your full name?
Renee Parody.
And you are here serving unofficially as a spokesperson for this group of lawyers.
Basically, this incredible outpouring of support from the New York legal community has been happening since the order came down, and so folks have been at the airport since then, and we're sort of organizing and getting together and putting the systems in place so we can continue helping people as they come in. And so I came in as a volunteer, and we're just trying to get everything together so we can continue helping people affected by this horrible order.
Now, I know you can't talk about specific cases, but there are quite a few lawyers there. Now that people know that this exists, are there folks who are just not getting on the plane anymore? Is there still an inflow?
So there are 2 or 3 groups of people that we're dealing with. There are people who are stranded overseas, who the Customs and Border Patrol has told airlines not to let those people on planes. If they were here in America, the court order would let them in. We could go to court and say this person is allowed to come in under the court's order, but Customs and Border Protection has taken the position that they're not allowed to board a plane. So people stranded in airports all over the world who were coming home, who were immigrating to the States for the first time as refugees, as immigrants, who are being told by the airlines, no, you're not allowed to board. Then there are people who are still, some of the airlines on a case-by-case basis are letting some people through who the Customs and Border Patrol believes need to be detained or held for some period of time. So we're seeing those folks. And then anybody who comes under the rubric of the order, who's from one of those 7 countries or is coming in as a refugee, they are facing much longer processing times than we're used to. We're seeing processing times of at least 4 or 5 hours, up to 6 to 12. So, you have people who are coming in from, say, Massachusetts to pick up family members who are just stuck at the airport for 6 hours without any information from Customs and Border Patrol. I had a client where we called Customs and Border Patrol to try and get a status update, and everybody sent us to a different number. Finally, the number that we were trying to use, it was busy 8 times. We finally got through, and all they could say is, yes, we're still processing him. Luckily, my client got out and his family were able to take him home, but he's a lawful permanent resident who came here as a refugee years ago. He has, children and family here in the United States, and he was just traveling abroad for religious purposes and isn't being let back in without this extremely long and pretty crazy processing system.
We've heard reports that there are some employees of the government who are not abiding by the court order.
I think that, I don't know the details, but I think you could definitely say that CBP is not administering this court order. Customs and Border Patrol, which I will refer to as CBP for the rest of the interview, isn't abiding by the terms of the court order in the way that we will often see government officials actually abide by the terms of the court order. I don't know more than I've seen in press reports or reports from other lawyers, but there is definitely an interest in not enforcing the spirit of all of these court orders that we've seen around the country.
Have you experienced it here?
I haven't personally, and I don't know of any specific instances I could speak to, but there are definitely, for instance, if you represent a client who you as a lawyer, they're your client, you've spoken to their family members, you've agreed to represent them, you're not allowed to see them while they're, behind the processing gate. And we've heard tales of people, there's a woman who was going to be sent back at 11 p.m. the night the order was issued, and her plane had to be rolled back to the gate to let her off before she got excluded and sent back, even though the court order had been in place for about 4 hours at that point. So, the devil is in the details, but we have been experiencing those kinds of issues.
You've got a group of different attorneys here. You're all volunteering. Are there any organizations that are taking part?
Yeah, the initial response was mainly volunteer-led and run, but there is a steering committee of organizations that are going to try to make the process going forward more regular. we're not sure how long we're going to be out here. It sort of depends on what happens in the courts and what CBP decides to do. But right now, there's definitely still a need. I mean, there are people who came in on a noon flight who I think are still being processed. So it's just so hard to know what's going on behind the lines. But we're still here to be able to file lawsuits on behalf of those people who are being kept overnight, being kept these excruciatingly long times.
So say somebody comes through and they're being detained. How do they know that there is a team of lawyers on the other side of the gate? How do they know to talk to?
Basically, we're trying to get family members and friends who are waiting for them in the terminal. And so our lawyers are approaching people who are waiting and saying, "Are you waiting for anyone who might be affected by the executive order?" We also get a lot of intake from people around the world, from people throughout the U.S. Anyone who knows someone who's coming into JFK is reaching out so that they know that there's a lawyer there waiting for them.
And how do people reach you guys?
I don't have that information at the tips of my fingertips. Unfortunately, I've just been put on press duty.
We'll put it on. Don't worry. Now, once you're detained, are you as an attorney allowed to go to the other side of the gate?
No.
Really?
That's part of the problem is we can't get back to help our clients while they're going through that process.
It's been reported that the laws are different than traditional laws of being detained.
Frankly, that's another thing where my expertise as a volunteer doesn't extend that far.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of just the makeup of the attorneys here, you have
all kinds. We have very seasoned immigration practitioners who have been extraordinarily generous about lending their expertise to folks, both in private practice and from some of the organizations around the city. We have big firm lawyers who are coming here to do the pro bono hours. We have also on a solo. I don't have any immigration experience, but I knew that I had to be here when I saw what was happening. It's just been a real outpour. I've seen people I went to law school with. I've seen people that I worked on political campaigns with. I've seen people I used to work with at other organizations. It's just been really heartening. We turned lawyers away because there are just so many people who want to help.
Anything else you want to inform the public about? There's been a lot of coverage of the protests, but not as much about the nitty-gritty.
Well, I would say that there's a team of lawyers in almost every international airport. We're trying to regularize ourselves and get to where we can easily refer people and share strategies and all of this. But we've literally hit the ground running in this way that's just obscene. In terms of what the executive order did and how it's affected people, who are just trying to live their lives. And so, as we get more regularized and as we become broader structures, hopefully we'll be able to even better serve those folks who are in trouble.
Are there any airlines that have not been complicit or have been?
Well, it's hard to call out the airlines because they face very stiff fines if they put on board someone who doesn't make it through, and Customs and Border Protection has said you can't board these people. So, I think that in the coming days you'll definitely see some talk about which airlines are doing a better job of serving their customers and those that are doing a better job of serving the will of the CBP and Donald Trump. But for now, that's sort of the situation they're in.
In relation to that, there are a lot of foreign people who work for these airlines who are foreigners who are natives of the countries that have been banned.
Unfortunately, again, I'm not as up to speed on that as I should be.
It's just, this is a complicated story, and there's just so many
it's incredibly complicated, and everybody is still figuring out what's going on. We need both, the information on the ground, the information from the various legal teams that are litigating the challenges. We need to be centralizing that information, and it's just been a really hectic couple of days, which is obviously totally secondary to just the sheer human misery that's been created by this cruel and inhumane order.
You guys sleeping here?
No one's been sleeping here. We do have an overnight shift because sometimes people are released from detention as late as midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing everything you're doing and for being here and speaking to us. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for tuning in.
What's the hashtag?
No ban JFK.
All right. Hashtag no ban JFK. Young Turks, help out however you can. If you're an attorney, whatever you can do. Obviously, this is an ongoing story. I'm Nomiki Konst with Young Turks here at JFK Terminal 4. As those come through and are being detained, we're going to do a quick Facebook Live update on Facebook at TYT Politics. I'll be wrapping it up and showing you some of the scene inside. Thanks.